Welcome back to the Successful Farming Podcast. In today's episode, Dave Mowitz sits down with Andy Campbell, Director of Insights at Tractor Zoom, with guest Ryan Roossinck of Tractor Zoom. They delve into the world of vintage tractors, exploring the emotional connection collectors have with these machines, the current trends in tractor collecting, and the factors that influence their value. This podcast is brought to you by John Deere, where innovation meets ag. Come run with us.
Looking for more accuracy, more productivity from your current planter? Let's get exact with precision upgrades from John Deere. Start with Exact Emerge and get accurate singulation and spacing at 10 miles per hour. Or choose Exact Shot to promote early root growth and cut fertilizer costs. And with Furrow Vision, save time by verifying seed depth right from your cab. Visit johndeere.com/planner upgrades and see why nothing runs like a Deere.
Welcome to the Successful Farming Podcast, Machinery Podcast. This is a special day and a real fun day. We've been having a lot of doom and gloom in agriculture, and Andy Campbell was Tractor Zoom, and I decided, by golly, we need to have some fun. Here we are at harvest, massive crop, problems with prices, but why not enjoy what agriculture has to offer? And there's nothing more enjoyable, at least to me, than vintage classic tractors. And I've had a lifelong fixation with these things. And we have a very special guest that's joining us. Now, Andy Campbell is the strategist, data guru at Tractor Zoom. He spends a lot of time crunching numbers, looking at trends on late model machinery, all machinery in agriculture. So we're always talking about the trends that are coming off right now. But when it comes to vintage tractors, we really need to bring in the other guru at Tractor Zoom. And that's a guy that writes a phenomenal column, both on Tractor Zoom and then agriculture.com. That's Ryan Roossinck. And it's a delight to have Ryan here. Here's the cool thing about Ryan's stuff. If you've never read it, go to Interesting Iron. Just type it up and go. And then about 2 or 3 hours later, you'll get done reading and you'll realize it's 1 o'clock at night. You better get up because cattle need tending the next morning. His stuff is so much fun to read, and it's also extremely revealing. His latest bit, not the latest, I may be off on this, was about the IH 1468. The Cost of Looking Cool was the title. And the 1468 is such a great tractor to talk about, the miserable failure that in the end now has paid off, but only for the guys that bought one and kept it for all this time. So we are wide open. We are talking tractors built from the early 1900s until the current time. Although, frankly, of course, a lot of the news is about late model tractors. And I'm going to kick it off and put Ryan and Andy, but mostly Ryan, on the chopping block here. What is the hottest late model machinery out there when it comes to collecting? Is it, well, it's obviously the 1468, but what else are you seeing? Easy question.
Lately, well, let me throw a blanket statement out there. Sound guards are coming into their own. They are absolutely coming into their own. Oh, yeah. You're starting to see, yes, I know a lot of guys farm with them, and they're the breadwinners, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's guys who are starting to collect them now, too. So those are starting to come up.
Kind of wondered when that was going to happen. We saw the prices lifting them up on high hour tractors you wouldn't necessarily, well, anyway, I was going to say you wouldn't necessarily farm with, but now we have what happened to the 4020 30 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. The guys still farming with it, guys were beginning to collect it. So the sound guards are there. And the Magnums?
Magnums are starting to come into their own. We're starting to see some, there's more of those that are still farming. I was on a charity road rally around central Iowa this weekend, and I was absolutely tickled to death to see at least a half dozen boxcars in the fields of north central Iowa, out near Lehigh in that area, pulling gravity wagons. It was awesome. Yeah. It was absolutely awesome to see those out there earning their keep and still making it happen.
Yeah, the auger tractor. Yeah, they just kept it. It was such a great tractor, as certainly was the quad cab Deeres that they've just kept. And they've become the new chore tractor, the auger tractor out and about there. So on the other hand, and this has been the thing that I've been watching that has surprised me, because I have a grandson that's interested in buying a tractor and he's looking at the later model stuff. But I keep steering him to what I think is one of the best buys in iron, and that's the older tractors. I know it's out of these people's vein. I mean, a John Deere A restored can be picked up for $1,500, $2,000. Not
A little
even
bit of nothing.
Yeah. Not even the cost of the paint and the restoration. And you see these at sales going time and time again, unless it's a kind of a unique tractor, a high crop, a wide stance. They're not going for a great deal of money. And of course, that generation of collectors are passing away and having these big sales. So am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. H's, M's, small 2-cylinders, A's, B's, G's, those are all going. Comparatively speaking, they're not costing a lot to get into right now. So if you're trying to start a collection,
great way to get going.
That's not a bad place to start. And if you're not trying to become an expert on, how 2-cylinders work and understand that, an H or an A or, Farmall 350, something like that, those little 4-cylinders, you can tune those things up and have them running like a sewing machine. And they still run great today.
Yeah, what a great tractor to teach somebody a restoration on. Simple mechanics, easy to get into.
And to add to that, just to insert myself wherever I possibly can, because I have nothing else to contribute to this conversation.
No, well, I'm putting you on the spot, bud. I mean, it's just, you're going to add something here.
Give me enough leadway that I have a time to type into a computer and get a formulated response out of this. But just looking up now, so you talk about, this is a good entry point. John Deere Bs, because we have 2 of them sitting in the back of our shed. And I've every time I go by and look at them, I'm like, I need to fix those up. They're not, not getting in better shape. And then I think of the time required and way outside my expertise to dive into those. So we have about 1,600 John Deere Bs in our Tractor Zoom database. And I always look at the scatter plot to see if there's any rhyme or reason. 1,600.
There is 1,600 for sale or coming up on
no, that have been sold. Have been sold.
Okay. Yeah, these are
auction.
Completed auction sales.
Yeah.
Yep. But you can trend them then, and you can start to see. So on average, you're sitting, though, around $3,000. And I would say the vast majority of them are below $2,000. And even when you look at those, some of the recent sales that are out there, I mean, there was just one that sold October 1st up in Minnesota. And I mean, when we're talking shape, this is 10 times better shape than I think our B has ever been in. $800 is what this went into. So when I start to think about, should I repair my 2Bs and bring those up to standard, I get a little more discouraged when I think I might just get $800 out of it. And not that I want to sell it, but yeah, there's some beautiful ones.
But you want
1900.
But that was a tractor you grew up on, right? Like mine.
Well,
I have my dad's A. It's a styled pressed frame A. I'm in the middle of restoring that with a stuck engine that a brother that left the gas or the can off the exhaust is the cause of. We're not going to get into that. And I will put some money into it because it's dad's. But what we're seeing is guys that don't have the family tractor like you. They're just not really buying very aggressively. So the question is, where are these tractors going? I mean, people are picking them up.
Some are, but I mean, I would say the fact that it's going for $800, $1,100 for something that somebody obviously put so much sweat and equity into, I don't know. I think, there's a lot of Bs out there. And so I think if you don't have that story and that tie behind it, that emotional tie, I don't know. I think there's, I don't know if there's enough places for it to go,
right?
If that makes sense.
And we're not picking on just on John Deere. I mean, you go H&M's and it's the same situation. Although I think I would buy a John Deere B or an M's because they're unique. But I just buy it. And then when I go out, every so once in a while, I just start it and let it run for several hours to hear it run. It's not that great. No, I don't care. A quad cab Deere, sweet tractor, 1468. All these are nice. But that sound, So it's just love, especially if you get it under load and really get it snapping in the field. It's fun that way. So
my question to you two, though, and Dave, you alluded to this, and Ryan, I know you pick my brain on these sound guards all the time. When does a tractor kind of come into its antique own? And like what generational shift has to happen, or what paradigm shift happens that now makes that sound guard, start to bring way more value than a 40-year-old tractor should bring? Any ideas?
Ryan, you're first.
Well, okay. They say that you collect what you loved in high school or what the neighbor had that you wanted in high school. So for me, that would have been a 44.
40. Yeah.
Now I grew up the son of an apple grower from West Michigan. We have absolutely zero use for a 4455 for a full size sound guard. We can't get those down the rows anyway. We farm with things that look like tractors that were, shrunk in the laundry. And that's because we have, 10-foot wide rows, 10 or 12-foot wide rows. But still, back in the day, 4455 front wheel assist, that was big time. And, that was big time. And in, when I went to high school, then I guess by the time I was out of high school, guys were starting to move over to the 8000 series Deers. But for that generation, for my generation, those are kind of what we thought were cool. And Andy, you and I aren't that far apart in age. The 3440s, that was the tractor that might have been the tractor that Dad first bought new. That's the two things. Those are the two kind of things that often drive some collectors. What did Dad buy new, and what did I spend my childhood on? Mm-hmm. Or what was cool when I was in high school? And the same thing you'll see the same thing going across the board to muscle cars and pickups and stuff like that. Guys, my 94, 95, 96, we all want a 12 valve Cummins, a second gen or an F-250 Power Stroke or something like that, So that's kind of what drives those in my experience.
Although I think the weird thing about pickups, I'll just do a little side here. I'm seeing this with grandsons, square bodies, which is okay, you didn't even grow up with that, but that's something
square
that
bodies
came
are
out
an
just
entirely different animal.
Different, aren't they? It's a weird world. If I'd only known, see, this is where I should have kept my dad's square bodies, right? He just run trucks to death, as is my dad. This funny conversation I had with a grandson who was saying, yeah, I was thinking about, get a little land, and then I'd get myself a big old F-250 4-wheel drive diesel. I'm thinking, my dad was running 3,500 acres with a 200 head cow-calf herd and feedlot, about 3,000 feedlot. And he was doing this with F-150s. But if there's anything, it'd be a sweet ride for me, it'd be an F-150. So, Andy, to answer your question, Ryan's dead on. The primary entry point is the tractors you grew up with. But then, you get into serious collecting as you mature and you're collecting. Then you just want to get the line that fits. And, you keep adding to that whole thing. There is a little, and then, of course, there are guys that just want everything that's unique and special that goes into it. But you get situations like Ryan has, apple farmer. I was a, high plains farmer in Nebraska. My dad was. Grew up with A's, but over the time, my first tractor was a John Deere B with a sickle mower, and I ended up leaving the farm, coming home from college and farming with, I think what he had, a 4360, and then got a 4-wheel drive tractor after that. So I loved them all along the way, but I got to admit, A's and B's. And then the fascination with little utility Deers and even the oddballs. For me, I can't really say it on a personal basis because I've been writing about antique tractors for so long that I'm just fascinated with anything weird, anything oddball, anything orphan that's out there. And that's what really, a Friday. I'd love to have a Friday tractor. A lot of people don't know this, but Ryan knows it.
I know one of those things too. I want to scare the daylights out of myself.
Yeah.
The reason
about 40.
Yeah, 45, 50 miles an hour, Andy.
Yeah, with a
And they
wobbling
were,
front. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And nothing on the side, and nothing to protect you from the tires. No fenders, at least not until some of the later production stuff. But um, those tractors are kind of neat to me too.
vast majority of collectors, Ryan hit the nail on the head with to answer your question. And then they get out and they start adding to the collection. The thing that's more interesting, it's interesting today, let's just say, in a relative sense, it was cheaper to get into tractors 30 years ago than it is today. And if you consider inflation or any other type of uh, ruler that you want to employ, back then you could get a good deer running or B or a Farmall M or Massey, whatever. And you could do it for about $500. It was running. I mean, and okay, rare, a little more money to it. You get into the quad deers. Say I'm in high school now or college, and I'm looking to get one of those that I grew up with. What would you be paying? I mean, it's five figures.
Usually, yeah, usually.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pay whatever you want for, let's just pick a 4430. And Andy, and as I'm talking, I know Andy's
You bet it.
dumping it in there, but you see 430s that sell for 10, 12 grand. You see them that sell for close to 40. Uh, and the longer we get and the further we are removed from those tractors, yes, they are coming down, but they're not coming down that fast because they were an icon. They are still an icon. And like one of my buddies, a kid that I met because of Tractor Zoom's social media. Met him 5 years ago. I've never shaken his hand in person, but we talk all the time via messenger or text or whatever. And he just got his, as he calls it, his ultimate 4430. And it's a 4430. It's got 9,000 hours on it. He just redid the interior. He's put on, I think, a rock box and an extended fuel tank. He put on some fairly fresh rubber on it. He's ready to go to town with that. He's ready to put that thing to work and put it through its paces, and he is during this harvest. But, you know, they hold their value because they're so, they're reliable, and they're tractors that you can still fix. I mean, if so long as you can find that one of those 10 millimeter sockets that you're bound to lose in the next 20 minutes, you could probably, get somewhere with tearing apart a John Deere 404 and a 4430 and fixing it. So, but
And Ryan has apparently got this just embedded straight into his brain because when you look at those average auction values for the 4430, average 14,000. So your 10 to 12 is not far off, but when you're topping it out, the highest values that we have 44,000, 41,000, 40,000, 39. So some of the top values, and obviously some of those were back in 23, 22, but we're talking some very functional ones that are not souped up pretty and being sold as collector items. They're ready to go to work. And I will say they are in workable condition. So some, at least showing hours, have 6,000 hours. Other ones have 2,000, which, maybe that's just what's showing. But still, everything that we're looking at is like, this is field ready and probably could use some fresh paint.
So that's one of the differences back, let's say way back when, 30 years ago, when you got a John Deere A, you weren't going to farm with it. You weren't even thinking about running on an auger tractor, on an auger. It just was pretty much going to be a show. These tractors we're talking about may get some work on the farm if you have a farm to do that. This is what explained September 24th, Almond Auctions had a sale where a guy placed, I think it was part of their regular sale. He placed these Magnums. Did you see this?
I saw that sale. That was cool. That was a neat sale.
Low hour Magnums. He had a 7220. These were not restored. This thing had, now amazingly, 719 hours, brought $72,000. And that's not going to go farm. You don't buy that tractor to farm with. But he probably is using it for farming. They just wanted the low hour, right?
Either or. That, yeah, I mean, you could park that thing in the shed and sit on it for 15, 20 years, and maybe you get 100, 110,000 out of it, and in 15 years. Or run the auger with it, drag a gravity wagon with it, mow the road ditches with it, and put
still get the money.
3,000 hours on it, and in 15 years when you sell it, you ain't gonna lose $1.
Yeah,
you'll probably end up making quite a bit.
There was a 7240. Now this is a front wheel assist though, front wheel drive, 3,900 hours. That was 73,000. 7120 not restored, 2,000. Now 2,000 hours was sweet, 71,000. They were all bringing over 71,000. 8940. So it's just not green paint as the Magnums have shown. Of course, that was such a
8940 bring
600.
Okay, now
they were all with that,
and that one was a rare. That was a rare tractor.
Yeah.
The reason being, it was an 8940 two-wheel drive.
Yes, they all were front wheel assist. So somebody decided they had to have that. They didn't want that stupid front wheel drive on their tractor, right?
Yep. And you could still order those, but it did take. You had to go through your dealer, and you had to actually fill out the order paperwork to have them custom make it for you. I did a little bit of digging on that particular tractor, and if I had to guess, and this is based on just a little bit of research, don't take this as gospel, but I'll bet there were less than 10% of 8940s that were two-wheel drives. So that's a rare tractor.
Well, that tractor, those Magnums, I remember covering agriculture as a young machinery editor of Successful Farming and watching the trends take place. And we kept seeing front wheel assist coming in and being offered and some resistance. The Magnum said to everybody in agriculture, no, you need to order a tractor of this size with front wheel drive. And at that point in time, tractors did the flip. We'd had it in the 60s. Certainly it had been experimented with before. Wasn't a big feature that guys were looking for, even in the Deere tractors. But the Magnum said, this is good technology. You have to have this tractor. It's worth every dime you pay for it. So it was a historic tractor in that regard, but also as a tractor put Case IH in the business. So I can see why there's that pride that goes with it for that reason. It's a damn cool looking tractor too. So
yes, sir.
To add a little bit of statistical validity behind what you guys are dropping here,
that's why we pay you the big bucks, Andy.
I'm still waiting on the check, but yes, I'll buy that. Yes. So I just looked up these 8940s on Tractor Zoom Pro. First of all, the two-wheel drive looks ridiculous out there. Those tiny little tires compared to everything else, it just doesn't even look functional. But to Ryan's point, saying, hey, maybe less than 10% have two-wheel drive. And again, this is just auction value. So not necessarily what was rolled off of the line. Maybe all the axles snapped. But we have 175 that have sold at auction. And this is pretty much since like 2018.
Right.
Of those 175 that have sold at auction, 3 are sitting at two-wheel drives.
Oh, well, less than 10%. That's okay.
Way less.
So it covers, way less, of course, but we don't want to necessarily embarrass
statistics.
Ryan.
Yeah, just don't worry about
that. That's the fun thing. So we see them all. There's the other trend that's kind of interesting is still the big horsepower Olivers and Minis are bringing good money, aren't they, Ryan? Have you seen this? It just doesn't let the E1000 Vista. You go to auction, if it's any kind of shape at all, and is going to do well. Oliver 1850, wow, pretty good money. Although they're, you're not talking. Hey, we're looking 4,000, 5,000. I think as to bring mini G1000s, but as a front wheel drives, 20,000 ones sold here recently, but somewhere between $3,000 and $13,000 for those. I suppose it's the guys that grew up with those particular tractors would be of my age, possibly. What's going to happen 10 years from now with those tractors, though? Because is it just going to be the uniqueness of the fact that it's yellow and a different kind of color, green or cockshutt red, that's going to get guys to buy them, or they're just going to drop off in value?
I think they're gonna. I don't see them dropping off in value too much. Like I just pulled up, and Andy probably did too, the G1000 in our TZ Pro database, and we've got 96 results between now and 2019, give or take.
Yeah.
And the average going rate is 64.15, so $6,400. But if you you got to slice and dice and dissect that just a little bit, and you can kind of tell based on the digging into the listings, what's running, what's not. And if you take out the front wheel assist tractors, and you'll get a more accurate number. But I don't feel like these are going to get an awful lot cheaper than that. I don't think you're going to be able to pick them up. They're not going to be your $500 entry level starter tractors. There are a lot of guys who have a lot of pride for Moline, and rightly so. They built a great tractor. They took a little bit different tact when they built stuff. They relied on cubic inches, which there ain't no replacement for displacement. So
no, there isn't.
I've got a lot of love for those guys, but yeah, and I think the same way with the Oliver guys. I think the Oliver heritage runs very deep, especially here in Iowa. And I think you see things. I think you see the 1850s and the 1955s and the 2255s, and I think my personal favorite, the 2150. I see those going up. I see them staying where they are, if not moving up, inching up just a little bit.
And I don't want to be Alice, the 12s, or I'm sorry, I had those beefy Alices that came out too. Towards the 21s. I'm sorry. I had imposed my numbers there. Bring good money at sale.
Oh, yeah. And they always will. They always will, because they were marketed as the 900-pound gorilla. And,
they were.
Well, not really the 900-pound gorilla, but they were, I mean, it was Alice's first tractor over 100 horse.
Right.
And
it had a good pull, lousy hydraulics, I remember. My dad almost bought one. He hooked it up to an 8-row cultivator because he was getting bigger. It just wouldn't pick it up. It was an Orthman. It was built out in Nebraska. It was heavy as hell. And there went that sale. But, it could pull very, very well. So,
yeah, okay. They're holding values, and they probably always will.
Oh,
yes, Andy.
That's a little understatement when I'm looking at the numbers here, because we have, bringing back from last conversation, an Oliver sitting in our back shed as well. We have a big back shed, and it is apparently full of junk. But
I didn't know you had an Oliver in a back shed.
Yeah,
we do. And 1800.
No kidding.
Yep, and we use it until relatively recently. I mean, it still has a sprayer hooked up to the 3-point.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wait a minute. Now you got to tell the backstory. Dad picked this up at auction someplace.
I mean, we were talking about an 1800. He picked it up prior to me time. So, I mean, that we've had it for a while. And it's just been a good utility tractor for us. And I'm a little familiar with these because I actually met an old mechanic that worked for Ziegler. And so a young guy, he's a great diesel mechanic, lives in Eastern Iowa now. And he was just talking about breaking down these Olivers, and he'll collect them and just refurbish them, because he's like, he was telling me they're apparently one of the easiest tractors for him to work on. It's like, it's just very straightforward on fixing these up. Mechanically, they're strong. And so he can just glance at it, fix it up, get it running. So these Olivers, I just looked at the 1800, 82 or 92 horsepower. They go for $3,000 to $4,000. And then I flip this over and look at these Alice Chalmers. And when Ryan says they hold their value, we're averaging 21,000 with these, and with some of the pretty ones obviously going for 40 plus. So what is the difference, you guys, between these two? Because the manufacturing year is pretty close to the same. Obviously, you do have quite a few more horse sitting in here. Well, 20 more horse, maybe 114 horse looks to be what the Alice Chalmers D21
on the Alice, right?
A little more beef, but why is that Alice Chalmers bringing so much more than the Oliver?
Ryan?
I was going to throw this one on you. I have a theory. I have a theory. The D21, it kind of sits in all of tractor history. There are a few tractors that sit in some pretty rare air. They are, and for the muscle tractor era, I would say it's the D21. I would say it's the Farmall 1206. I would say it's the John Deere 4320, 6030, the IH Cannon 1466s, 1456 now. Those all sit in some very rare air because they all had presence. They all had, it's like the difference between a Ford Taurus and a Ford Mustang. Just the street cred. And Oliver, guys, you're not allowed to roast me or hang me from the rafters because I'm not throwing the 1800 under the bus or saying it's a Taurus. But come on, the D21, you have to admit it has presence. It looks big, beefy, and tough, and it had that reputation too.
Money were no object. If we're me, at years of covering antique tractors through the Aegis Iron Almanac, and if somebody said, "Oh yeah, got all the money in the world, Dave, what would you do?" I'd probably buy more land, but and then waste it on that. I wouldn't waste it on that. I would get the muscle tractors of that era. I'd go get the 1955, was that it? 1950. I've kind of collected the numbers, and I've got them. Was looking for my wish list of tractors. You hit the nail on the head. I'd get that Alice. I'd have that later version of the Oliver. I don't know if I'd go to G1000. I'd probably go up towards the end of the Mini Mo line when they were really stretching the horsepower and milking it. You're right. They had presence. Get a 60-30 Deere. Yeah, these big, beefy. The minute you see them, you just go, yeah. The minute you turn it on, you listen to it as well. And then for fun, I'd throw that Oliver with the GM engine in it. Gosh, and I can't remember my numbers now.
The 1900.
Thank you. Just because
if you buy one, I will send you a Amazon-sized box of earplugs.
Yes, and I want a straight pipe on it too.
Yeah, we'll send you more of them then.
Yeah, I want to tell the neighbors I'm starting this thing up.
Yes, when you need to let the neighbors know that you're working, and the neighbors are in the next county, accept no substitute.
Oh, and the most pronounced turbo sound of a tractor. When you could hear that turbo cranking on that particular tractor, it had that whine, a real particular whine when it got going. So yeah, straight pipe it'd have to be.
Well, there they are, mocking you.
See you next year, loser.
That weedy area that's got you thinking, man, I hate that spot. Wish I'd sprayed better. Get the last laugh with a sprayer upgrade from John Deere. Precision upgrades that can increase your sprayer's performance, like ExactApply, advanced nozzles to give you more control at more speeds. It's just one of the many precision upgrades you'll find at johndeere.com. Now, let's see who's laughing.
Now, see, I'm already professing what I want. Guys, if you had, what was that? I should know this by heart since I love the tractor so much. That was the Oliver, what model?
1900.
1900. Just a sweet, but you're right. Tractors are presence of all time. I mean, how else do you explain a 730 John Deere still sells extremely? I always consider one of the most beautiful John Deere's built, well, of that era, of that styling. So, but the tractors you did talk about that were brought out in the mid 70s, maybe I would say about that time, the big beefy ones. I got your mind. You could even throw in the Ford 8,000 or 80, is it 8,600? You could throw that in there, or the 9,000, 9,600.
Yep.
You walked in and that was, okay, I'm in the big league now. I'm going 800 to 1,000 acres and looking for more, and I need this tractor for that reason. They're always fun to find. So what does one do when they're looking for a tractor like that to put a value on it? I know I had to bring Andy back in there. You just go to tractor and start looking. Yeah?
You do. Yeah. I mean,
this
you
is
have to.
A softball for you. Go to TractorZoom.
TractorZoom.com. Yes.
Tractor
Yeah, I mean, you can
Zoom.com.
track your own equipment on TractorZoom.com. Our dealers will use Tractor Zoom Pro, but honestly, I mean, with this especially, you almost have to go see what other people are willing to pay for it because, I mean, this is way more like art than it is iron. And so, what's the value of an art piece? It's what someone else is willing to pay for it. And so,
Wait a minute,
you've got to see.
That sound like a Ryan Roossinck headline.
I have to get in a couple of these quips because otherwise. I blend into the background.
I'm filing that one away. More art than iron.
Iron.
Mm-hmm.
Mark my words. There will be an interesting iron column that gets named that, and I'll give you the shout out, Andy. I promise.
I appreciate it.
Redo the Graham Bradley tractor. There, you could put that in there. More art than iron. But although, anyway, sorry,
that
Andy,
is
you were
absolutely applicable. Nicely done, sir. That.
Yeah, well, I'd own a Graham.
You're right.
I'd own a Graham Bradley if I ever could. Most beautiful tractor
I would too.
ever designed.
Those are cool.
Yeah, Andy, your point is more art than iron.
You've got to see what other people are willing to pay for it, and then with an auction, there's always two bidders, and somebody leaves without the piece that they wanted, and so it's just open, fair market, the invisible hand, and so you can see where it's at, and the market here doesn't necessarily fluctuate with the ag economy, but it still will fluctuate. And so you kind of need to know what things are going for now because things might take up just because sentiment takes up. You just don't know unless you look at the recent biddings.
Well, and that's kind of true. The price trends, I'm just looking for my sheet on the 4020s. Built a lot of them. They're out there. And their prices do range from anywhere from $5,000 up to $25,000, depending on their condition and uniqueness. Whole lot of them were built, and so there's a whole lot of difference in the value of that tractor. And it does surprise me, guys are still looking for them and aggressively looking. Everybody has to have a 4020 if you have a green collection, right? So that's a tractor that you would think the values would sit down at about the $5,000 level, but I've noticed they've been going for anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. They were at about 8. I remember I did an analysis maybe 7, 8 years ago. That was about the going 6 to 8. So they've increased in value. So their numbers don't have any relationship to the value, do they?
On this one, I know a minuscule amount to maybe be able to add something into this conversation. But you guys have to also correct me if I'm wrong. So my shop neighbor, Kendall, used to own a John Deere dealership, and he is big into collecting these and finding, kind of filling out his suite. And he knows what I do. He's like, if you ever find one that has a power shift. And so if you guys can help me explain this.
Big difference there, isn't there? Yeah.
Right. But again, and I know what to look for on that power shift. He's like, you got to look down on it. And if you see this shift with the U, call me. But when I look at our stats, so the John Deere 4020, we have almost 3,000 auctions since about 2018. So they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
The average price is, overall, 3 to 4 with a power shift. When I throw that into the description search, narrow it down, I'm sitting almost exactly at 10%. So here your 10% is straight on, Ryan. But the average auction value jumps up to almost $12,000
with the power shift. Yeah.
With the power shift. And, like I said, without it, it wasn't as low as I thought. It was like $9,000 without it. But what's driving, is it just scarcity? Or what about that power shift is driving it up?
It's a good transmission.
It is. And I think that I think that that's one of the things that really drives it. It's because that's when the 8-speed power shift really came into its own, was the latter half. You'll see, if you were to break down the data a little bit further, you'll see an even bigger premium paid for a 1972 production power shift.
Really? Why?
Just because guys want that last year. They want that last year of production.
Okay.
It may not have been, and the 4020 aficionados, again, no hanging from the rafters. There may have been some updates or enhancements or innovations that were put into the last year of the power shift. I don't know my power shifts at all. All I know is that Harold Brock left Ford, and John Deere wasted no time in giving him a home. And that was a very, very, very smart move. But if you were to look at a 1972 production power shift, you'll see that the premium is up just a little bit more.
Ooh, maybe
But the
not
other
just a
thing
little
that
bit
guys,
too.
huh? What is it?
Not just a little bit. So if you're looking at all 4020s, the average being about $9,000 for those at auction, you throw in the production year of 72, and that jumps to $19,000. So
Wow.
you more than double your average
Last year
value
power
there.
shift.
And well, then on top of that, then I threw in power shift and a 1972. Now your average jumps to 22 and a half. So
Yeah,
it's worth something.
it is. And the other thing that's worth something here is that's worth talking about here is the originality versus the restored tractors. You know, they say, and this is, I know this sounds real cliche to throw it out there, but they're only original that one time.
Yeah.
You know, and
if they're not a disaster, if they're in their working clothes, looking kind of sweet and straight, boy, they bring big price, don't they?
They do. Some of the highest price 40s in our database. I'm pulling it up right now that have not been, well, some of the highest price ones that we've ever seen have not been restored. Like there was one that sold about, I don't know, 5 months ago, came out of Illinois. It's a 72 power shift, side console, you know, two remote tractor, PTO. This one was repainted, I guess. So maybe we can't count this one, but this one sold for $57,500.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
not. You're not
yeah.
justifying that on farm use.
No, you're not. But you'll see. There's a handful of tractors that are well in excess of 30 grand that are original and in their work clothes, and that's why they brought the money that they did, is because they are original and somebody's really willing to pay for that. And I mean, there's lots of collectors out there. Dave, you know them, I know them, Andy, you know them too. So
Yeah.
they love the originality.
Well, and to add a little bit of numbers into that, so I just went back to the 4020 and just said, okay, all 4020s average around $9,000. I threw in just the description term of original. So if the description somewhere that had original in it, that jumps the value up to $15,000. So
really,
you got about a 75% jump in value of it being original.
Okay, this kind of surprises me. I know I've seen the same thing, but I've never thought they've taken the time to think that through. If they're buying it original or paying a premium for it original, is the guy then going to keep it original in the working clothes? Because that's the trend for that tractor. So the question would be, when everybody spent all this money restoring tractors before, that one they don't want to, why? Is it just the look?
Because it's too nice to restore. It's too nice. There is a point, and you can ask almost any collector on this planet, they will tell you there is a point where it becomes where it's too nice to restore it. Like if you try to make it, there's no way you could make it better, you know, without harming the value of it.
Well, it has that patina on it,
yes.
You know, that look.
Yes.
It reminded me of the first time I ran into this was a John Deere D. It was like 30 years ago in California at a tractor show. They were using tung oil and they would coat it because it was original. Had that light bit of rust, but no deep eating rust. It had been just sitting in a wet barn someplace. And it did have a cool look to it. And that's the first time I ran into a collector that was keeping it in its working clothes. And then there's the Cobbler family down in the Tumwa. And I think they specialize in all their tractors being in working clothes there. And they take pride in taking it out in the field and working it that way.
Before this conversation gets much further, and I know a lot of people listen to this podcast while they're driving, so I'm going to save them getting in an accident and not have to Google the word patina, because everybody else that I know is sitting there in the tractor waiting for, you know, the combine to come around. It is Googling patina right now. So patina means the surface appearance of something grown beautiful, especially with age or use. So yeah, the more you know. Thank you, Dave.
It's Dave. Yeah, that's the best one. I have patina now.
I think that's actually in the dictionary. It's see Dave Mowitz.
See Dave Mowitz. Yeah, that would be about right. Well, I'm going to tell you my secret lust for a tractor, because my dad was I have to explain it first, the backstory. My dad was non-denominational on tractors until my brother started farming, and he insisted on going green, insisted with vehemence. But my dad would buy anything with any color if it worked. Does this sound right, Andy? I mean, you had a little of that with your dad, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was just circumstance that kind of led us one way or another, and it was timing. But yes, the functionality.
Yeah. But if my dad had a love for a tractor, it was blue. For some reason, he loved Ford pickups. He'd drive them into the ground, but he loved those Ford pickups. He loved Ford tractors. In fact, we even had a 4-row Ford Combine at one time. Wish I could find one of those. It was built by Klaus, German built, brought over and sold. And I think it's only because the neighbors wondered what that was in the field that he maybe got rid of it. Mine, I'd love to have a Selecto Speed Ford 6000 wide front. I cultivated, must be thousands of acres of crops with that thing. And I know they took it a year ahead. They rushed it into the marketplace. Harold Brock, his genius, he was the one that tried to stop them from getting it on the market. He said, we got a few bugs yet. The marketing guys forced it out there. They had some problems. It ruined it. Too bad for farmers, because we got one the next year. I remember it was painted red, and then they painted over it with blue. And that transmission worked flawlessly, absolutely flawlessly. To this day, I'm sure somebody has it and it runs sweet. I mean, and you know what it was like to cultivate corn with a Selecto Speed, as opposed to going up from a John Deere A.
Well, that was a paradigm shift right there.
Yeah, it was. That's my first taste of power shift. I thought to myself, it would still be another 20, 30 years before it came in, but what a cool tractor. Kind of sorry, Ford collectors, and I don't mean to be insulting. It was not the prettiest looking tractor. I mean, don't get me wrong, but if you have stylizing a tractor, keep automobile styling out of it. That front of that tractor was kind of puggy looking.
Looks odd.
I mean, they got it. It looked odd, and then they came out with the 8000. Now that had that beefy look to it, nice looking tractor. So, if you hear about a good 6000, I might break down and buy that if the transmission.
What you actually need to do here, and we've done this with our farm. I think Ryan knows where I'm going with this. On nuances like this, where I'm looking at these Ford 6000s now, and so one was sold in August. Actually, 1, 2, 3 were sold in August of this year, but then prior to that, it wasn't until October of 24. And so, I mean, it's coming sporadically. And so unless you're watching it daily, you're going to miss when they hit. So that's one of the reasons why we built the saved search on TractorZoom.com. And I'll do it too. We were looking for a seed tender back in the day. And it's like, I knew the specifications that it needed. I didn't have time to watch. So I just went in there and said, save my search. And it shoots me an email whenever any hits the market. And so then I'm ready and at least can scope it out.
That's cool.
Yeah. So in your Selecto Speed here, go to TractorZoom.com, Dave. Set up your profile and update your search.
I think I've got a profile already, but see, this is too tempting. At this point in time, I'm trying to limit my ownership of items. So I think I've maxed out on tractors. I keep telling myself, but if the right one came along.
This one isn't but Dave, this one really isn't for you. It's for the grandsons.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, true. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
No, we're here to help. We're here to help. And when we get you in trouble with your wife, we will, we'll make sure that Andy and I have flowers to send to her to help you out of the doghouse.
No, if it's for the grandsons, I'm going to state emphatically right now. They're starting out with John Deere A or a good M. That's what they need. They need a good Alice. They need a good Massey, something like that. Then they can learn mechanics from the ground up and be able to, if you can learn to adjust a carburetor on a tractor after it's been purposely screwed up. That's how I taught one grandson how to adjust a carburetor. Then you're really kind of hitting it there. You got a mechanical aptitude to yourself to go after it. I think every teenager needs to have a tractor like that. Then if they want to go on to the muscle tractors of the 70s, cool by me. So besides, as we talked about before, a good A or an H selling pretty reasonable. Less skin, less my pocketbook will thank me.
That's probably
Anyway,
true.
so Ryan, are you looking? Come on, reveal here. I told you I was looking
What am
for
I
a Ford
looking for
6.
as far as a tractor goes?
Yeah.
I'm-
Beside the
I'm-
Friday.
Friday would be cool. If there's one
Yeah.
tractor that I would really love to find and track down, and it's not possible, and it's taken some time, but I've come to grips with it. But my family, the
Yeah.
first tractor that came out to my family's farm was a 1937 or 8 John Deere B Orchard.
Whoa.
It didn't have the swoopy fenders. It was before the age of the really, really pretty swoopy fenders. They were more the boxy.
They came out. Right.
They still covered the wheels properly, but they were a little boxier. It was just kind of more rudimentary, and it wasn't really until the late 40s, probably about the right time for the really pretty stylized orchard tractors. And I will always have a special place in my heart for them, but I would love to find that tractor, that John Deere B Orchard, because I've got a picture of my granddad and my dad and my uncle all on that tractor together, pulling a hay rack.
Wow.
And
Really?
And well, we had a few animals we had a little bit of livestock back back in the day, but most of what we do, what we do now is almost all apples, out in West Michigan. But I would love to have that tractor, that John Deere B Orchard. And like I said, I was not kidding when I said I'm a terrible wrench. I'm the last person on this planet who should have a tractor collection.
But that tractor you could work on, like me. I'm a terrible wrench too. So
that tractor would be one that if I thought I found the line on it, and here's why we can't find it. It's because my grandfather was wonderful about keeping records. He was very studious, and he was a wonderful record keeper. One thing that he never put any thought into was, let's record the serial number somewhere. I have looked and looked and looked and looked.
They didn't care.
There are no serial numbers recorded anywhere for any of our tractors. Heck, I don't even know if we have them recorded to this day. Even the new one, even the new stuff that we're using now. But that would be the one that I would really love to have, just because it represents something special to me.
So, Andy, what are the tractors in the back of the shed you want to pull out and restore, or are you looking for something?
So yeah, I do appreciate you asking Ryan this first, so I could actually think through my thoughts here. But for me, it would have to have a fair amount of use in it still. Otherwise, it would just continue to sit in the back of the shed. And so for our farm, and Ryan, I know you mentioned this earlier about wanting the 44 or 55. As long as you're okay with a little bit of, mice companions in there with you, I have one for you. And we currently use it for our manure pump. And so don't ignore that smell. It's all good. It's part of the character. So I will sell
Patina,
that to you.
Folks. That's Patina.
Yes.
That's something. That's something.
Your definition of perceived patina.
It's visual and olfactory patina.
Yes. Yeah, you get all your senses in there. So with this tractor, this ideal tractor, I need it to be able to connect to the manure pump because I want to still use it. And I also, we need an auger tractor for the fall and then something to run the vac. And so if I can have something with enough PTO strength to do those three, I also want a cab on it because we're connecting to the manure pump, then that is what I want. And if I can get one for, $1,000 or less and still be able to work on it, because I've got an engineering background, I probably should use it every once in a while so I don't completely lose it. And so I can turn a wrench, I can figure out things as long as it's not, embedded in a chip somewhere. That is what I want. Now, whatever model that is, I probably need to rely on all the listeners to go and put a comment in here and tell me what I need. But that is what I want, because then I can work on it. I'll clean it up afterwards, use it, and we have this like perfect coexistence. That's what I want.
Yeah.
You know how many guys are actually farming with that stuff right now, and they love it, and they won't go away from it?
No, they won't.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the price, which, let's be clear, Andy has been smoking his socks while he was valuing what he's willing to spend on one of these. But um, that's, gosh, that's what people want. They want to be able, they want something that's easy enough that they can work on them and fix them. They want some creature comforts, and there's, they want it to do a job.
Yeah, and there's a lot of small farms, medium small farms, and then of course the hobby farm that's out there. The guy that has a full-time job, that's his tractor that he's putting in 300 acres of corn with, for example. And they still, and isn't that in used iron? That's kind of the base that's set, the foundation that's poured when it comes to tractor values, isn't it? Those tractors, they get down so far, and then unless they've got 9,000 hours on them and look like they went through a nuclear hit, they're going to find a place and be used in farms.
100%.
What I typically see, when I trend things late model, that essentially we call it about the paint fades, and you hit this exponential drop to, you hit a baseline of something is going to be worth the job that it gets done. And it, it equates a little bit to horsepower and repair costs. But at that point, even 10,000 plus hours on some of these more reliable tractors, it's, you need a maintenance repair bill that's just continually keeping it going, but it does the job, and it's worth that base amount of the job that it gets done. And whether it's initially red, green, blue, yellow, they all kind of come together.
Yeah. For the light duty jobs around the farm, you're not hooking that thing up to a deep tillage implement and working its guts out.
I even see it amongst 4-wheel drives, some big pulling tractors. With age, still, it's a different drop, a dollar value that it drops in kind of baselines out to, but those still will baseline, and per horsepower, they kind of just flat out.
So I'm going to bring that in to this conversation, because this is what we get with, now we're into late model tractors, and it's kind of a nice way to kind of wrap this conversation up, which I think we're going to have again, because I really enjoy talking to Andy, but Ryan, it's a
very quick transition, but Ryan.
Yeah. But Ryan, he's way cool. So with the late model tractors, no, God, no, I love you. No, really, everybody read his stuff. Interesting Iron. I've read every column, and I have a lot of fun. I go back and reread those before. And I just love the way that you write it too, being a wordsmith myself. So late model tractor interest, what's fascinating is what is happening with 4-wheel drive tractors. What's interesting about that is oftentimes they'll have lower hours, but now collectors are getting into those. And we're not talking about the first generation Deeres. I've seen more and more interest. But what led that was, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ryan, Snoopy. Snoopy's were the one that said 4-wheel drive tractors are cool to collect.
I think you could make a case for that. I think you can also make a case for some of you don't see a lot of versatiles being collected, but
no,
you see some Steigers being collected from that era, from the mid to late 70s. Yeah. And I think versatile may be on its way up. I think there's a few tractors, a few models there, especially the big cube tractors. Anything with an 1150 cubic inch engine in it. It's kind of cool just by default. And the fact that it'll put in a good day's work and won't give you any grief, and you can still fix it. That's even better. Yeah. We are starting to see a little bit of that collectability start to happen with even the 4-wheel drives, the early ones. I mean, especially the ones that came out of Williamsburg, Iowa, after they fixed some problems. Hint, hint.
Well, the 2+2s, that was the one that kind of made the mark on 4-wheel drives. I mean, you had the first original introductions by IH and Deere that the guys want to have in the collection, the Wagner Deeres and then the Deeres themselves. But now the prices for a Snoopy really are stunning in some cases, because guys love that tractor. It's not only a great 4-wheel drive, but it's a unique 4-wheel drive only built for Gosh, I just did a history on it a year ago, and I should know this. 4 years? 5 years? Can't remember.
Like that. Not many.
Yeah. No. Towards the end. And it's also a tractor. I've always contended this in my history analysis it was a tractor that got panned by a lot of people. They made fun of it, thus the term Snoopy. But it was a highly successful tractor that was really doing well on sales, that was being built by a company that was having a lot of financial issue and management issues. And that's what really killed it. I know the guys that have them. Gary Larson up in Marshalltown has like 4 or 5 of them, and he loves farming with them too.
Yes, he does.
You know him? Yes. Oh gosh,
he's the guy with some of the Super 70s too, right? Then he has 72 and 74s. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice tractor. Pristine shape. But he loves getting them out in the field and farming with them.
Oh, yeah.
So talk about cultivating with that. That would have been fun. Now I think about it with the tail wag, but that would have been taken away. I kicked it in. Anyway, I won't go into those woods. So we are going to see more and more interest in 4-wheel drive collectible tractors, you think?
I think so. There's a few collectors out there right now who specialize in them. And they usually have specialized for a reason. They will go into they go into, I like a particular type or a particular year, particular style. One guy that I know near Evansville, Indiana, and some of you guys listening probably do too. He collects the component 4-wheel drive tractors because he loves what that represents. It represents, the components where they were, let us do what we do best, and we're going to buy what other people do best, and we're going to mash it all together in this tractor, and it's going to really do well. And, Chris loves what that represents. The spirit of farmers finding solutions to their farming challenges or their horsepower needs, because that's what his granddad and his dad did. They identified some of those problems, and nobody made what they wanted. So, well, the heck with it. Let's make it ourselves. Hiram, fire up the welder. It's time to start making things. And that's what they did. And farm.
The Steiger boys in Minnesota.
Exactly. Exactly.
The Stuttgart Mini out of Arkansas, which a dealership put together.
Yep. And those farmer-led innovations and the idea of letting a farmer be able to fix his own stuff with off-the-shelf parts that weren't terrible hard to find or get, that's a cool thing. And Chris really loves that. And so he's got a great big collection of them. But then you get other guys who are looking for a particular brand or a particular this or that or the other, or they want to show the evolution of how something changed. So
true.
Yes, that's coming.
Yeah, that is coming down the line. Well, this has been an absolute delight. We're going to do this again. Andy, we'll have to get back to some serious iron next time. But trouble is, right now, it's just fun to have fun with these kind of things. And we're definitely going to get Ryan back. So this has been a blast.
Happy to join you.
And listeners, pick up interesting iron. I'll guarantee you it's well worth your time and boring into. Certainly go to Tractor Zoom because I was there when the concept was born, and it was fresh out of Iowa State, kind of a concept when it got going. And now it's become the site. There is nothing else in the marketplace that comes close to the definitive listings for auctions, let alone the data that you're offering. And it's a very retrievable, very traceable, and very sound type of data that you can get when you're making buying sales. So you're going to make a buy or you're selling off your tractor. So I appreciate all you guys do. Anyway, we'll get together here in about another month. We're going to talk about, I don't know, what do you think we ought to talk about, Andy?
Oof. If we're meeting in a month, talking early November,
tillage?
Oh no. I think
too late.
I think we really have to look at what is going to happen towards the end of this year in terms. I mean, we can pick our equipment, but
yes,
we're at a unique point with the farm economy right now, and the OEM, the manufacturer, the dealer, and the farmer all sharing in a little bit of this pain, in different regards right now, and trying to plan out for the future and trying to figure out how far in advance we're going to go through this trough. That's really starting to change some values. It's certainly auction values. And that, I think, going into the end of the year is going to be interesting because, we have a fair amount of bushels out there. We have maybe some government payments coming in, not coming in. So just the dynamics of, will we get some bailout money? Will people spend it on any equipment? Will that change the valuations? There's going to be a ton of stuff happening in October and November of 25 here that are going to maybe change some of these equipment valuations.
Well, let's focus on that all the way to the year end and what we're doing, because you're right. It's exciting. Probably one of the more turbulent periods that we've seen when it comes to used iron in the last decade. So, this is going to take a lot of analysis and a lot of thoughts. And we can throw Ryan in if he wants to have fun and join us as well.
Well,
Ryan,
there are a couple of kind of interesting and kind of noteworthy collector auctions coming up. I know that one that we're getting ready to list right now is John and Marcia Kinkenbach. John is
that's right.
John has collected for, I think he's been collecting since as long as I've been on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think I know that for fact. And he's starting to downsize his collection a little bit. And he's paring back, and he's selling about 120 running tractors. I think it's about 150 tractors in total. So 30 parts tractors and projects. Really cool stuff on the sale. I had the opportunity to go out there and spend a couple of days with John and take a look at the collection and take a look at what he's selling. And you'll start to see some of that stuff come out a little bit later on this. Well, you might already see it coming on now, but keep an eye on social media, because thanks to Successful Farming and we got to take a really cool look at a really neat collection, and we're excited to kind of show that off a little bit.
Well, and that was Jordan Reynolds, and you spent a couple days shooting out at the Kinsey collection. It's an understatement to call it phenomenal. It's stunning. It's Here'd be the cool thing. It is a live sale.
It is not. It is online.
Okay, they're going to. Too bad, because you
wouldn't that be cool to hear Dan calling again? Oh,
that would be cool. Oh yes.
Maybe Marcia said no because John might get caught up in.
He would
raising his hand on his own stuff before he remembered. He taught me. He told me that he could very easily help me take home any piece out of the collection that was going up for sale. He made that very, very clear. That Ryan, if there's one you're interested in, I'll help you get it. I promise. I'll make sure you get it.
Well, in that back, it's 3 massive buildings full of tractors. It's the back one. There was a lot of oddball orphan. I shouldn't use that term because it insinuates that they're oddballs and orphans, but some European tractors that they're just been sitting back there. So it's going to be fun to go to that sale. Now, that takes place when? Do you have the dates?
The bidding wraps up on November 4th.
4th. Okay.
Yep.
So start looking. And who's hosting it? Is that Sullivan?
It's Sullivan Big Iron,
Yeah, kind of figured it would be. So you got a ticket. Yes. I'd almost paid money, though, to go hear Dan Sullivan call an auction again. I
heard his voice. I heard his voice on the phone this morning, and yeah, you are 100% spot on there. I would love to hear Dan call one more. But
Boys,
Dan, if you're listening, Dan, if you're listening, come on, help us out here.
Yeah. Boys, we're knee deep in rubber here. Yeah, Jesse James had to use a gun to get a steel like this. I can't remember the other scenes that he had. So it was anyway. Thank you both. It's been a delight.
You bet.
We'll do this next January, February after we get the turmoil of the year end done. So thank you all.
Great. Thank you, Dave.
Right. Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
Well, that was fun.
Thank you to our hosts today, and thank you to our sponsor, John Deere. For more information like this, visit agriculture.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can also follow Successful Farming on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. And be sure to check out our other podcasts, 15 Minutes with a Farmer and Successful Farming Daily, wherever you get your podcasts.